In Russia, a guy is seconds from decapitation when an elevator shoots up with him stuck halfway inside. Another man is trapped in an elevator rocketing up 31 floors in 15 seconds before slamming into the roof. And a woman steps into an elevator to hell, sinking well past the first floor into total darkness. These are some of the creepiest things ever captured on elevator cameras. This first video comes out of Russia. Honestly though, it looks like something out of Final Destination. The security camera shows the lift stop. One guy steps out and another guy tries to get in, but the doors barely give him a second before the elevator suddenly shoots upward, with him halfway inside. And, it's this terrifying split second where he's got to either, go all the way in or pull out before his body gets crushed. Luckily, he wriggled back and ducked his head out just in time. If he hadn't, he would have been killed. One person on Twitter wrote, "This reminds me of the Final Destination scene when that lady got decapitated by the elevator." Now, most elevators have safety systems that, stop this exact thing from happening. Clearly, this one didn't, or it was just malfunctioning. Speaking of elevators malfunctioning, this guy climbed into an elevator and experienced an absolute nightmare that nearly cost him his life. So he enters the elevator, presses the button for his floor, but then something goes wrong. Very wrong. The elevator starts to ascend before the doors have even finished closing. Then the doors just open back up, but the elevator is still climbing up and fast. It's basically falling upward. I've said this on the channel before, but I've had recurring nightmares of being in an elevator and it suddenly dropping. Never thought I needed to worry about one shooting up instead. New fear unlocked, I guess. This elevator rose more than 31 floors in just 15 seconds. And on the 31st floor, it crashed into the building's roof. That's what caused the camera to cut out. Now, luckily the dude lived, but he was seriously injured. Alright, this one's more of a Looney Tunes situation, but it still would have been scary as hell. So our main character for this story walks into the elevator dragging a vacuum cleaner. He's in the middle of wrapping the power cable around the vacuum when the doors begin to close. Problem is, part of the cord is still out in the hallway, so now the cord is caught in the doors, but the elevator starts to descend. Now, for some reason, this guy is standing there with the cord between his legs. My first course of action before pressing any of the buttons, before trying to pull the cord out of the closed doors like this guy does, I'd be stepping as far away as possible from that vacuum. And I'd make damn sure the cord wasn't between my legs for what is inevitably about to happen. This guy doesn't do that. So the vacuum gets pulled up as the cord unravels, taking the dude with it. Luckily, it snaps and he falls back to the floor, but ouch. Favorite comment on this video comes from Reddit user expert_matter who said, "Perfect demonstration of how to floss your balls," which, amazing. This next clip feels like something that would only happen in a Taco Bell-induced nightmare, but here it is, captured right on camera. Woman gets into the elevator, she's going to the first floor, elevator starts going down, reaches the first floor, goes right past the first floor, and just keeps going and going and going. She tries hitting the buttons to no avail, it just continues plunging deeper and deeper until finally coming to a stop. Through the windows, you see nothing but black. And then the doors finally open, revealing nothing but a dark void beyond. Not knowing what else to do, because the elevator clearly isn't working, she cautiously steps out into the darkness. But the doors close shut behind her and back up the elevator goes. Super eerie stuff. Now, I have no info on this clip, don't know who uploaded it or from where. Now, I'm gonna safely assume it's probably a hoax, but I don't care, I find it eerie as hell anyway. This footage comes from a manga cafe in Japan, where a security camera was aimed at the reception desk and the nearby elevator. First, it looks nothing more than a guy stepping out of the lift, but if you look behind him, there's something else in that elevator. Looks like a woman in a long red dress, but something is off about her. She's way too tall for the space, tall enough that she'd need to duck just to fit through those doors. The longer you stare, the stranger it gets. She isn't moving at all, almost like she's suspended in the air instead of standing on the floor. Some people who've studied this clip say it doesn't look like a person standing upright, it looks more like a figure floating inside the elevator. Now, as for what this entity could be, well, according to some locals who watched this clip at the time, the woman's appearance matched someone who'd recently taken her own life in a nearby park. This next clip reminded a lot of people of the Elisa Lam case, which is not going to be on this list. It's been talked about to death, so here's a good substitute. Eliza 1818 was recording herself in this hotel hallway. She said she was being followed and was pretending to be on FaceTime to try and deter the person. But when she heard footsteps rushing toward her, that's when she just booked it down the hallway, calling out for help before finally reaching the elevator. And that's when we get some security footage. So she runs into the elevator and tries closing the doors. They don't budge. So she just huddles in the corner covering her face. Finally, out of options, she exits the elevator, at which point the doors finally decide to close. Now, it becomes pretty obvious that there's no one following her, at least not that we can see. Who knows if there was something actually going on. Looking at this security footage though, it does kind of seem like there's no immediate danger, that she's just imagining something. Eerily though, there's a brief moment in the hallway part of the security footage when a mysterious shadow passes over the wall. Take a look at this. What do you guys think of this one? Was someone or something following her, or was she just faking this whole thing? Share your thoughts down below. This one will make you wince. So here we see a couple dudes carrying a big sheet of glass into an elevator. It does not fit. But before they have time to exit the elevator and reevaluate things, the doors close, trapping the sheet of glass as it descends. Now at this point, I'd be covering my face, I'd be like turning away, not even knowing for sure what's gonna happen, but I feel like being around glass in such an unexpected, precarious situation like this, it's just kind of an instinct. But this guy, he just stands there, staring up at this sheet of glass, and then this happens. And he's lucky none of that shot into his eye. I mean, who knows, it might have. That glass was just obliterated. All right, this next one is pretty horrific. Back in June of 2017, CCTV cameras in Shanghai caught a woman standing at the entrance of an elevator, looking at her phone. Suddenly, she trips. One of her legs slips right between the closing doors, and before she could pull free, the elevator started moving. Instead of stopping, it just dragged her upward. 3 full floors, with her leg trapped the entire way. By the time it finally stopped, her leg was badly broken. Luckily, it was just her leg that got trapped, but still, I mean, good God. I can't even imagine how utterly painful and scary this must have been. Holy crap, watch this. I have no words. That is up there on my list of worst nightmares. Luckily, this comes from a Brazilian prank show though. The floor isn't actually falling out under her feet, but I mean still, you can't do this to people. I mean, what if someone had a heart attack? I probably would. I'm just standing in an elevator when all of a sudden the floor tiles fall out from under my feet. I'm just staring into this abyss below. I don't know if this counts as a prank, because it's just an attempt to break these people's minds. This last guy took a ride on what has to be the jankiest elevator I've ever seen. Apparently, he was riding the elevator in a newly constructed building. Yeah, very newly constructed, and that it looks nowhere near being finished. Well, in the middle of this terrifying ride, I mean, it sounds like this thing is just inches away from breaking down. A piece of building material just falls right into the elevator. Dust is flying, sounds of crunching and scraping fill the air. I'd be thinking I was about to die at any moment. And so did this guy, because he filmed his hands after finally getting off this death trap, and he was shaking like a leaf. Can't blame him. With all that said, I've been your host, James, and I'll catch you, yes, you specifically, in the next video.